Okay, so our next speaker is Sister Mariam Jikaku. She is a writer, editor, and educator. She's one of the founders of the Mindful Muslim Reader Project, an initiative to get books worth reading in the hands of our children, which I would recommend much more than AI. AI is very biased, so, or at least that's been my experience. She also teaches and helps run the ILM Tree Homeschool Cooperative in Lafayette, California. She knows books can change our minds, move our hearts, and expand our words. So she's committed to getting the best books into young hands early and often.
Assalamu alaikum. So glad to be here with you all today. Thank you, Baruch, for organizing this conference, and very happy to see a lot of dads here, mashallah, on the homeschooling journey, as Rima mentioned. My name is Mariam. I'm here with Mindful Muslim Reader, and today we are going to talk about parenting through books. And we're going to do an activity in a few minutes, inshallah. So how many, I know Rima asked who are the newbies and who are the veteran homeschoolers, but I am curious, who is in a cooperative? Okay, several are in a cooperative. Okay, mashallah. Just a little bit about this project, Mindful Muslim Reader. It's a free community resource. We'll take a look at it at the end of the presentation. But started by 4 homeschooling mothers who, knew that books were important, knew that reading is important for our children, for their education, but how do you find books worth reading? So we built this community resource, both for our voracious readers and our reluctant readers. So, the kids who read a lot, like Rima said, inhale books, and those are reluctant. So we have books for both, inshallah. Okay. One of the co-founders of this project attended a conference in Los Angeles, the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. Has anyone heard of this? This is like the industry go-to for authors, illustrators, publishers. They're all there, the entire industry, the big 5 kind of running the show, the big 5 publishers, mainstream media publishers. She was actually honored with an award for a manuscript that she wrote, but they handed out this book, Writing Picture Books, and she was shocked to find this side: delete any moral or message. So this is advice from the industry to picture book writers: delete any moral or message. Now, we all know you can absolutely delete morals from a story, but you can't delete a message, because anytime an author is telling you something, there's a message there. So we're going to take a look at the messages in books today and why that matters to us as parents. Okay, so I'm going to start with a story. This was actually a story told by David Foster Wallace in a famous commencement speech he gave several years ago, I think in 2005, I want to say. The story goes like this. There's 2 fish swimming along in the ocean, and an older fish happens to pass by, and he nods at the 2 fish. "Morning, boys. How's the water?" And he keeps swimming along. And the 2 younger fish swim along, and then finally one turns to the other and says, "What the heck is water?" Okay, so the idea behind this is that we are all kind of swimming in water. Sometimes we can't taste it or feel it because we've been in it for so long. And by water, we mean the ideas surrounding us, the ideas floating around, the ideas we're breathing in without knowing, without realizing what they are. And you have to sometimes take a step back to realize the water that you're swimming in. So in order to do that, we're going to do a little exercise. Now, you might be wondering, what does this all have to do with parenting? And what does this all have to do with books? But if you stay with me, I think it'll become clear. So I'm actually going to use the whiteboard for this exercise. Okay. And it's interactive. Okay. So what we're going to do is we are going to look at, there's not that much furniture in this room. This usually works better in like a conference room, but look at the furniture in this room. Okay, so the back jacks that you're sitting on, there's some IKEA shelves there, these tables probably underneath the chairs that I'm sitting on. Let's describe the furniture in this room. Okay, so, or you can imagine like an office chair, for example. So let's describe it. Functional, absolutely. Functional, there's utility. What did you say, sorry? Organized, yes. Let's call it, yes, it is comfortable. Adjustable, let's call that, what that actually means is it's mass produced, right? Because you can, right, it's meant to fit into different areas. What else? What would you do when this furniture, when you're done using this furniture? Would you save it to pass it down to your children? Where is it going? Probably in the landfill, right? It's disposable. Yes? Oh, okay, yes. In this particular experience, yes. Culturally relevant, yes. But yeah, I'm gonna hold that one for a second. Okay. Okay. Okay, what is it made out of? What is this stuff made out of? Yeah, it's processed. It's not natural materials, synthetic, most likely. Okay. I think we got most of them, and it's fast. Okay, let me just quickly run back here. Okay, the next thing we're going to look at, or think about rather, because there's not much to look at here. Okay, so we have, I think we hit most of them. All right, we'll come back to this. I want you to imagine, instead of that office chair, a chair you might find in your grandmother's home. Especially if you're an immigrant, maybe you've gone back home, a chair like that, or an antique piece of furniture, or furniture you may have seen in a museum. Let's describe that. Ornate, beautiful, definitely unique. It's crafted, yes. It is slow. Yes, what did you say? I heard one more. Sturdy, yes. Yes, none of this is made to be sturdy or long lasting. So let's call that enduring. Sentimental, yes. It is, let's say transgenerational. It's not disposable. That's not something when you're done with it you would toss or put in a donation bin. Generational. Or what's that? Yes, absolutely. Natural materials. Oh, like serviceable? Like you can, yeah, it's enduring, definitely. Resilient and rooted, okay? Is old? Yeah, yes. Bespoke, okay. Let's write that here. Okay. Okay, so keep these two lists in mind. Oh, okay. Are we okay on camera? Yeah, can I stand here? Okay, perfect. So keep these two lists in mind. I'm gonna go to the next slide. Okay, here's the thing. We just did this about furniture, but you can do this about architecture. Okay, once you have this kind of framework, we're gonna call it modern and traditional. You can apply it to a lot of things that you see around you. So our clothing, our choice of clothing, right? Our modern clothing is absolutely replaceable, manufactured, temporary. It's comfortable, it's clean, simple, it's disposable, it's processed. And with our food as well. Think about the food that we eat. It's definitely manufactured, mass produced, cheap for the most part. convenient compared to traditional foods, which is organic, natural, right? Rooted. You'll start seeing this in a lot of different places in your life when you kind of open your eyes to what is the water that we're swimming in. So yes, you can do it to furniture, architecture, clothing, food. But when you're swimming in the water, what actually happens is that it starts to affect yourself, your view of yourself, the self. So the modern self, let's give a definition. If you kind of take this, one example we like to say is, how does, if you think about the wars that are happening, okay, if you think about Israel, Gaza, or you think about Iran, how does Israel think about a human being in Gaza? Are they rooted, resilient, unique, beautiful? Are they disposable? Okay, so you can think of human beings that way, and you can start thinking of yourself that way. When you're kind of in this water, you start thinking of yourself this way. So let's give a definition of the modern self. The self is something to express. It seeks freedom from limits. Your freedom comes from removing limits and boundaries. To be authentic, it defines truth by how it feels. Okay, this is a definition of how the modern self is viewed. Let's compare that to the traditional definition of self. Okay, so the self is something we're going to change all those red words. So we keep to refine. Okay, it's not something you express. We're not interested in self-expression. We're interested in self-refinement. It seeks freedom through discipline, because if you are constantly seeking freedom from limits, you will never be free. There are always going to be limits. We live in the dunya. The traditional self seeks freedom through discipline, to be noble. It defines truth it finds truth. The self does not define truth, the traditional self. It does not define truth. It finds truth by submitting to Allah. Okay, so let's keep these two lenses, these two waters in mind. We're going to apply it to books now. Okay, so I think we're just going to roll this out of the way. This is Aruba, one of my teammates. Okay, so put on your child hat. We're going to enjoy a few stories. Okay, how many of you have heard of this? Probably everyone. Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Maybe a lot of your kids have read it or seen it, in the library. Absolutely, it's over 100. It says right here, over 200 million books sold. Always on the top of the Amazon bestseller list. Let's just look at a quick snippet from it. Okay, I struck out on gifts again this year. I knew I was in for a rough day when I came downstairs on Christmas morning, and the only presents in my stocking were a stick of deodorant and a travel dictionary. I guess once you're in middle school, grown-ups decide you're too old for toys or anything that's actually fun. But then they still expect you to get all excited when you open the lame gifts they get you. Excuse me. Most of my gifts this year were books or clothes. The closest thing I got to a toy was a present from Uncle Charlie. When I unwrapped Uncle Charlie's gift, I didn't even know what it was supposed to be. It was this big plastic ring with a net attached to it. Uncle Charlie explained that it was a laundry hoop for my bedroom. He said I was supposed to hang the laundry hoop on the back of my door and it would make putting away my dirty clothes fun. At first I thought it was a joke, but then I realized Uncle Charlie was serious, so I had to explain to him that I don't actually do my own laundry. I told him I just throw my dirty clothes on the floor and Mom picks them up and takes them downstairs to the laundry room. Then, a few days later, everything comes back to me in nice folded piles. I told Uncle Charlie he should return the laundry hoop and give me cash so I could buy something I'd actually use. That's when Mom spoke up. She told Uncle Charlie she thought the laundry hoop was a great idea. Then she said from now on, I'd be doing my own laundry. So basically, it ends up that Uncle Charlie got me a chore for Christmas. It really stinks that I got such crummy gifts this year. I put in a lot of effort buttering people up for the past few months, and I thought it would pay off for Christmas. Now that I'm responsible for my own laundry, I guess I'm kind of glad I got a bunch of clothes. I might actually make it through the whole school year before I run out of clean stuff to wear. So are we building, oh, I lost my whiteboard. Are we building the modern self? What were the values imparted? This is entertaining and funny, no doubt about it. There is a reason it's on Amazon's bestseller list. We're not denying that. It's entertaining. It's fun to read. Whenever I do this presentation, my daughter always likes to listen to this part because we don't allow her to read this book in our house, and she gets to laugh at this. Quickly, just what lessons did you get from this child? Huh? He wants to be entertained. He's ungrateful. He's doing good deeds for the sake of getting gifts. Absolutely entitled. The way he talks about his mother, the way he talks to his elders, right? I told Uncle Charlie, just return the lame gift you got me and give me cash. Yes, it is funny and entertaining, but what self is it building for our children? That's the question we want to ask, okay? Are we building, is this child, is his self seeking freedom from limits to be authentic and to define truth by how it feels? Or is it seeking freedom through discipline to be noble? Okay, how many have heard of Dog Man? Okay, I'm just going to show a few pages from this book, just really quickly. I'm not even going to read some of these words. I don't want to say them in the masjid. Aren't you that guy who stole all those toilets and made everyone pee their pants? That was a long time ago. I'm a changed cat. Sure, very likely story, pee boy. This is marketed to young children. It's meant to attract young readers who are reluctant, especially boys. So there's potty language. It's vulgar. It's kind of a gross thing. This is just an image. So there's a character married to a pile of trash. The human is the animal, beast of burden, and the animal is the driver. Which self is this building? This is very popular. This is probably, I think, even more popular than Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Dog Man. It is marketed to young children. Just something to think about. You might not have this in your home. There might be a reason you're homeschooling. You don't want to bring this stuff into your home, but you might have cousins who read it, or someone who gave it to you, or your kid picked it up from the library because it's on display. This is not building the traditional self. This is building the modern self. Okay, here's a book, The Storybook Knight. I'm just going to read a few pages from it. Okay. Leo was a gentle knight in thought and word and deed. While other knights liked fighting, Leo liked to sit and read. He was kind to every creature. He wouldn't hurt a fly. When Mom and Dad said, "Knights must fight," he couldn't quite see why. One morning, Leo's parents said they'd like to have a chat. There was nothing wrong with reading, but he couldn't just do that. They'd seen an ad that morning in their favorite magazine. A dragon needed taming. Leo wasn't very keen. Nonsense! You'll enjoy it. It'll stop you getting bored. In case the dragon's scary, here's a brand new shield and sword. Leo packed some sandwiches and lots of books, of course. Then with a sigh, he saddled up old Ned, his faithful horse. He hadn't traveled far, though the sun had risen high, when suddenly a fearsome creature swooped down from the sky. It had a lion's body, but it had an eagle's wings. A griffin, marveled Leo, who had read about such things. Come on, snarled the griffin, I dare you to a fight. I'd rather not, said Leo. It wouldn't be quite right. I've got my brand new sword with me, so I'd be bound to win it. But how about a story with some pictures of you in it? Yes, please, the griffin nodded. He was really rather vain. So Leo read a book to him, once, twice, and then again. It's yours to keep, said Leo, and he clambered back on Ned. Oh, thank you, cried the griffin, and he bowed his noble head. Which self is this building? The traditional self. So his parents asked him to do something he is not really interested. Does he do it? Yes. But he does it in a way that's beautiful. Instead of fighting, he has knowledge. So he knows how to tame the griffin without using his sword. He uses books instead. He knows the griffin is fierce but vain, so he read him a story with a griffin in it to show him that he's also included. So the book goes on. He meets other like various villains and tames them through books. So this one we have actually outside on our table if you want to take a look at it during the lunch break. Okay, so this is something that we want to think about in our homeschooling journeys when we're talking about the media that our kids are consuming. Is this building the modern self or is it building the traditional self? Okay, and why do we need to go back to books? Rima talked briefly about screens, social media, the harms that they cause. But the reality is that we are wired, if you want to use modern language, we are wired, we are evolved to learn from stories. For millennia, how did people learn? Their history, their belief systems, philosophies, the water that they're swimming in comes through stories. How do we know it's true? Allah tells us in the Quran. We relate to you, O Prophet, the best of stories through our revelation of this Quran. The Quran is full of stories. Allah also teaches us through stories, the stories of the prophets, different parables in the Quran, like in Surah Kahf. The Quran is full of stories. That's how human beings learn and is definitely how children learn. Okay? A movie is just a story, but it's told in visual form. A book adds different layers because it's told through words. Okay? So the next question is how to choose good books. How do you find books worth reading? We've developed a set of criteria for our website, and we're going to share that with you today so you can use the same criteria when you are looking at, actually, honestly, not just books, but anything your child is consuming. So 3 questions. The first, is this how I want my child to act? Okay, so you have a book like Captain Underpants, or you have a book like this, The Storybook Knight. Okay, and we just read a snippet, but Leo is a gentle knight in thought and word and deed, while other knights liked fighting. Leo liked to sit and read. So what morals, what character traits are you building in your child? Okay, the second question, is this how I want my child to think? Okay, you have a book like this where you're questioning the way Allah made you, your self-esteem, your self-image, versus a book like this, 10 Beautiful Things, about a grandmother who they don't specify the tragedy, but her granddaughter has gone through some kind of tragedy and they are on a road trip across the country. And she challenges her granddaughter to find beauty in the world, even though she's going through something difficult. Let's try to find 10 beautiful things, Graham said. There's nothing beautiful here, she said. You'd be surprised, Graham said. So she's forced to look at her surroundings and find beauty in it. Yes? Before Adhan. Okay. Is this how I want my child to speak? Okay, you have a book like this, Who Pooped on Me, versus a book written by America's poet laureate in the last administration. I talk not only of distances from where and how we came, I also walk our differences to show we are the same. She's talking about unity despite differences in this book, Change Things. Okay, so again, the 3 questions. Is this how I want my child to act? Is this how I want my child to speak? Is this how I want my child to think? Okay, another way to think about it is what's on the menu. So you can have a main course like The Hobbit, dessert like Harry Potter, which still has good values, but the language, the level of vocabulary and language is a little bit lower. You have junk food, okay, where you don't want your child raised on a steady diet of books like this. And then there's poison. So this is a series, Wings of Fire, about dragons. But the later books have heavy LGBTQ themes in them. This is poison. The difference between junk food and poison needs an antidote. It is poisoning the water that your child is living in, okay? How do I find books worth reading? So we built this free community resource, mindfulmuslimreader.com. Okay, thank you. Thank you all for rejoining so quickly after Salah. So how do I find books worth reading? This is a free community resource online, mindfulmuslimreader.com, where you can find books worth reading. We read every book cover to cover, and I mean from the dust jacket all the way to the end of the dust jacket, because we want to be confident when we recommend books for parents. So one of our slogans is we read cover to cover, so parents don't have to, kind of doing that work for you. So just a quick glance at how to use the site. This is a website. If you click that Find a Book button, you can search here on the left side. It's also mobile friendly by grade. So that might be important, especially for homeschoolers, by age also, but by grade. And then we also have teaching tools for many of our books. So these are discussion questions, ayahs from the Quran or hadith that apply to the book, lessons you can pull from the book, or you can use if you're in a co-op or teaching at home with your students. A lot of our books have like STEM related questions, history related questions, Deen related questions, discussion questions you can go through with your children. So look for that, teaching tools. So just a quick example, the book, The Nightingale. This is some of the teaching tools that we have on our site, discussion questions. What's the difference between something alive and something made to look alive? Okay, and then there's like an example answer that you can give. Explain that only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives life and that true beauty comes from what is connected to the heart. That might be important if you're talking about AI, the flood of AI tools that are being kind of pushed on, especially educators. Okay, so things like this. Like what is a nightingale? There's STEM related questions as well sometimes in our teaching tools. Okay, this is an example of a book, Books for Boys, The Assassination of Brangwyn Spurge. It's mythical creatures, and they're at war with each other, two groups of creatures at war with each other, and a story of how two of them connect. So there's a review of the book. Why should my child read this book? Again, the teaching tools. And then we also flag books. So anything that we think the parents need to know, we still think it's a book worth reading, but we like to let parents know what's in there. So for example, this one specifically, has some language or crude imagery, some substance use. There's mention of champagne fountains, and then violence. We do not recommend overly graphic or overly violent books on our website, even for older children. Okay, this is a question we get a lot. What will you never find in our book list? So we like to just quickly go over that. You will never find the glorification of these kind of what we call isms. Atheism, the belief that there is no God, no afterlife. There might be mention of atheism in a book, especially for a high schooler, but it's not glorified or made to look like virtue instead of vice, if that makes sense. Moral relativism, the idea that there is no distinction between right and wrong, that it's all relative. It's based on the modern self. The self defines truth. Scientism, that's not science, different than science. Scientism is the idea that only science can be used for knowledge in this world. There's no room for anything outside of science. And individualism, that the self is the most important thing. Okay, so these will never be glorified in any of the books we recommend. We do not recommend books with LGBTQ themes or characters or side characters or references. We're very careful with this one. One of my colleagues likes to call it rainbow sprinkles because that's how these things start. They sprinkle it in, but you suddenly find yourself buried in a mountain of rainbow sprinkles. So even sometimes if even on the desk jacket, if an author or illustrator identifies as something outside of our traditional values, we won't recommend the book. So we're very, very careful with this one. That's a question a lot of people ask us. And then again, the glorification of disrespect of parents, elders, tradition, or authority. You might have characters who grow throughout the book. Yes, they said something rude, but they're either corrected or they realize that they're wrong. Okay, and then finally, just some books for parents. This one, if you want to learn a little bit more about the water that we're swimming in, this book is called Strange New World. If you want to take a picture of the slide, by Carl Trueman. He's a professor of philosophy. He does kind of tell it from the Christian perspective, but really important book. He wrote it for the layperson. So easy to understand, kind of gives a little bit of the history of ideas of the Western world for the last maybe 150 to 200 years, but written in a very accessible format. So if you're more interested in like why the water is like it is today, this book is great. Rima mentioned this, she said like, instead of asking, why our children are not like our heroes of history, like for example, Salah ad-Din, instead asking what environment they grew up in. This book addresses that. This is not about how to make a Salah ad-Din of your child, but what environment, especially education environment, Salah ad-Din came from. That he was just a product of his environment is the thesis behind this book. How the generation of Salah ad-Din appeared and Jerusalem recaptured. And then Rima mentioned this one as well, The Well-Trained Mind, like a manual. It's kind of like a homeschooling manual for classical education. And then finally, the Read Aloud Handbook. This is a famous one, Jim Trelease. He releases kind of new editions every few years. Just great books for reading aloud by age to your children at home. Okay, and then finally, if you enjoyed this presentation, we do webinars for homeschooling co-ops, for your masjid. Please reach out on the website. There's a contact us form. There's actually an event request form, I believe we've added. So we can, come out and do these presentations. This is one of the ones that we do, How to Raise a Reader. So both in the classroom, at home, good habits for raising a reader. So please contact us. And then finally, if you're interested, sign up for a newsletter. We don't send too many. If you sign up today, we will send you a 15% off coupon for our first kind of product. It's really, our mission is not to sell books, it's to recommend books, but to help kind of support the project and our expenses and things like that. We have a My First Library project, which we're also working on with one of the local Bay Area schools on a curriculum for preschoolers using books. So this is like a taste of that. And you can, we have a table outside in the lobby. So during lunch, please feel free to drop by. We have a few books in exchange, for a donation that we have Aragon for high schoolers. Have many have heard of this one? It's a whole series. So if you have a voracious reader, this is a great clean series. YA, like young adult. The protagonist is loyal and virtuous. Some examples of a STEM book, Ibn al-Haytham. This is a National Geographic, but talks about the life of Ibn al-Haytham, one of our great scientists from our tradition. One of my favorites, Mrs. Frisbee and the Rats of Nim. It's actually old. I read this as a kid. Really popular with young readers, like 9 to 12 age. And then we also have the storybook night, if anyone's interested, just to help, help. Everything goes back to, all proceeds go back to the project. And we have this one as well. It's really beautifully done. Nora's Crescent Moon. Okay. And finally, I can take some questions. If we're out of time, I can actually talk to people at the table. But one thing I did just want to plug, we recently, because of just the onslaught of screens, social media, the anxiety, the distraction, the push of AI tools, recently started a project called Screen Safe Schools. So if you're interested for your co-op or even for your home, how to protect your home, like some of the things Rima mentioned, getting the router that blocks content, things like that. Please feel free you can reach out to me through this website. It's a different organization, but just wanted to do a little plug for that because it's really, really important to protect our children from screens and how to do that successfully at home, inshallah. If you're a homeschooler, through your co-op, to have like media policies in place. Alhamdulillah, I've been at ILM Tree now for many years. We have a successful media policy in place at our school that we really feel is protected our children from a lot of the pitfalls of media. It's not no tech. I'm taking this slogan from another organization that I follow. Not no tech, slow tech. Okay, so tech as it's applicable to your child's age. Totally sidetracked and just a plug, but something that's super, super important and relates to how many books your children are going to be picking up. You have to put the screen down to pick up a book. We also have, what's that? Yeah, so we also have audiobook recommendations on our site. We really love audiobooks and we have really great ones on our site. So summer road trips, while your kids are doing chores, my kids want to keep doing the chore because they want to keep listening to the audiobook. Like we said, we're wired to listen to stories, to love stories. So definitely check that out on the site as well. I can take a few questions, or how are we doing on time? Okay, yes. Yeah, for sure. Yes. Is Aruba here? Oh, she may be at the table. My colleague Aruba is here. She's one of our, she's definitely read more books than me that we've recommended on the site. We flag it, yellow flag. If there's heavy Christian themes that we think, the children could get confused, we flag that under our theology yellow flag. So Chronicles of Narnia, specifically, I think I would still recommend, because for young children, it depends on their circumstance, right? For young children, the Christian theology part of it will kind of go over their head. I read it as a teenager, I think, and I slowly started to realize, I'm like, oh, this is getting more and more like the rapture and the, et cetera, as the things go on, Day of Judgment and things like that, how, at least a Christian view of those things. But heavy in virtue, heavy in high moral virtue, and clean. Yes. Any other questions? Yes. Yes. Yeah, great question. So can I give you a hack? Okay. This is one that we share, especially in June. Okay. We all know there's rainbows everywhere we go, especially in the library. You're going to have the displays. You go to Target, you can't escape it. The billboards, the Pride Month stuff. So for that one, this is very specific to this month. In children's literature, most of it is the big five publishing companies, and for whatever reason, like through societal kind of pushes, in 2014, starting in about 2014, there was a heavy push for diversity. That is when you're going to start seeing the mainstream Muslim books, Muslim authored books from Simon and Schuster, the Salam Reads imprints, the Muslim imprints, HarperCollins. They start, there's a push for Muslim authored, Muslim illustrated books with Muslim characters. But diversity doesn't just mean Muslims, right? There's things that we don't agree with when it comes to diversity. So if your child's at the library, it's kind of a simple hack. It's not foolproof, but it's pretty good. Teach them to find the publishing date. So open the book, the page with all the information and the copyright. Teach them to find the publishing date. If it's published before 2014, you are likely to not find those things in the books. And the kind of each decade has a theme. So if if you want to avoid the disrespect of parents, if you feel like that's something maybe your kids are struggling with, or it's too much in their environment, you got to go back a couple of decades. So every decade kind of has a theme, but you can train your children, very young children can do this, 5-6-year-olds, once they know their numbers and their basic addition, 14, 15, they can count. You look for books published before those dates. Of course, check our website. The children can, the website is really meant for parents. Children can use it too, but sometimes the yellow flags we are explicit with our yellow flags. One thing that I do, we're slowly growing our team, our volunteer readers, et cetera. So we maybe have 250 to 300 books on the site right now, but of course there's, thousands, tens of thousands of books available. Something that I do is actually to use Christian recommendation sites or review sites. You kind of at least get some of the flags. They won't catch everything, and some of their ideology doesn't match ours, but there's a website called Redeemed Reader. So very clearly Christian, but they've reviewed a lot of books. They've been doing this for 2 decades, I think. So they have a huge repertoire of reviews. So it's a good resource to just check basic, flags that, you want to avoid.
Jazakallah khair, Sister Mariam. So are you able to stay a little bit, or are you going to be leaving?
Yes, I'll be at the table through lunch.
Okay.
Inshallah. So if anyone has any questions, please join us at the table. If you're interested in that gift box, it's there available for donation, and same with these books. Inshallah.
Jazakallah khair for amazing presentation. So we're going to break for lunch for about 30 minutes. It's going to be in the same area where we had the tea.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Jazakallah khair.
Okay, so I'm going to give you guys, I love passing on tools. So Qigong was, the Qigong that we did was a few of the tools that I have. There's another tool that I have. Some of you might have heard about it. It's called the Wim Hof practice. I don't think it's called Effect. It's a breathing practice. And it's basically, what it does is it alkalizes your blood. So you get more oxygen into your system. And you can actually feel it, just like, I don't know if you guys felt the pump when I did the pump. You get this tingling feeling. You get that with the Wim Hof. And I've done that while I'm driving and I can't stop. I'll do the Wim Hof, and well, maybe you guys shouldn't do that one during driving, but anytime you need to stay up, because I don't want to give you guys advice and you pass out or something while you're driving. However, it works for me. I've done it. So he does like a series of 30 inhalations and exhalations, but we'll do like 20 just so it doesn't take too long. And then you hold like the 20th one or the 21st one, and you hold it for as long as you can. So I just like either have my phone or I start counting like seconds in my head. And then when I can't hold it anymore, I exhale. Then I inhale and I like squeeze my head and pretend that the oxygen is going into my brain. And it works because you get the tingling feeling. And I'll do that through it. Like if I'm listening to a talk and I'm falling asleep, but I really want to like be present, I'll keep doing that over and over. If I'm nervous and anxious, I'll do that along with all my dogs. And so right now, because we just had lunch, we might be in food coma, and there's going to be a lot of great material that's going to be shared. You don't want to miss out. What I would do is just keep doing that as much as you can so you can make yourself present. Okay. So you don't have to close your eyes. You're just going to take a deep breath in and count it. I'm just going to say 1, 2 until 20, and then we'll hold it. And of course, if you can't hold it on the 20th one or the 21st one, just do it until you can't hold it, okay? So, Bismillah. So, take a deep breath in. And then exhale. That's 1. And it doesn't have to be too fast, and it doesn't have to be too slow. Just go at your own pace if you can. I'm going to go a little faster, but just go at your own pace, okay? So, take a breath in. Exhale. Let's do 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Breathing is the only involuntary and non-voluntary thing that we do. We can't not breathe. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and then on the 21st, if you can hold your breath, great. If not, take another deep breath and then hold it, okay? So 21. Hold. You'll be surprised at how long you can hold your breath. Wow, you guys are doing great. And then exhale. Then now we're going to take another deep breath, and then we're going to pretend that it's going into our brain, and we're going to like kind of just hold our heads like this, okay? So you're going to look a little silly, but it works. And then hold it for 10 seconds only. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Exhale. So now you guys know how to do the Wim Hof breathing method. So do it throughout the talk. Every time you're getting really tired or you're tuning out, zoning out, whatever it is, do the Wim Hof. It'll keep you awake and present. And then I wanted to share with you guys about the, the Silicon Valley effect, chasing the dunya effect. I don't know if you guys have heard of Joe Dispenza. He's a neuroscientist. And he says that, and this is really relevant to homeschoolers, but it's relevant in life in general for all of us. And he says that knowledge without experience is ignorance, and experience without knowledge is no, experience without knowledge is ignorance, and knowledge without experience is arrogance. That you need both knowledge and experience for you to gain wisdom. And what happens is when we learn information, we don't give ourselves time to experience that knowledge. And, I heard from a friend of mine a long time ago, because I was just into learning and learning and learning about my deen. And she said, be careful because you'll be tested. And when she said that, I freaked out, because I was like, subhanAllah, because it's not that we're being tested, just as a form of punishment. But if we're going to gain knowledge, then we need to know how that applies in our lives, right? And so that's what's going to happen. And you're going to be held accountable for the information that you learn. So slowing down, learning information is better deen-wise, and also just in reality. You will not gain wisdom. You will not understand anything if you're just consuming, going back to the Silicon Valley effect, or the chasing the dunya effect. So, and then, that's why they say, oh, you people gain wisdom when they're older. Why? Why do you think we gain wisdom when we're old? Experience. But guess what? You slow down, and now you get to sit down and think about all the things that you learned and all the mistakes that you made, right? But imagine there are children who are very wise, because they've got the knowledge, and then they've got the experience. So we can gain wisdom throughout our lives. We don't have to wait till the end of our lives, where we're going to regret everything and we're too weak and too old to make use of that knowledge that we gained. And so for homeschoolers, that's very important, because we can really get into that the Silicon Valley effect is like legit right here. The chasing the dunya effect is all over the world. But Silicon Valley effect, as homeschoolers, we know everyone. The public schooling system, we're like, just do. We're not human doings. What are we? Human beings. And so human beings require presence, but human doings. Where are you when you're a human doing? Yeah, but if you're not present, where are you then? In your head. That's where the darkness is. So, and your head can get influenced by everything. But when you're present, where are you? In your heart. So the very act of not being present and being in that chasing the dunya effect is in our minds, and that's where the darkness is. The dua of Yunus alayhi salam. La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu minadh dhalimin. And I like the translation of, truly I have been of the oppressors, not the wrongdoer. I don't like that. That's my opinion. But the oppressors, because oppression will only take place if you give it permission, to whatever degree that you have power, right? So there's going to be, like in Gaza, they don't really have a lot of power to stop this oppression, but they have power inside, in their hearts. They know how it can affect them internally. Externally, they have no power. Internally, they do, and they're connected to their hearts. That's what we have to do here, especially as homeschoolers. Okay, so Sister Yusur Hassan is a mother of 4, homeschooling mom of 20 years, and certified parenting coach, educator with over 26 years of experience. She is the founder of the online Amana Parenting community, serving thousands of Muslim moms worldwide through workshops, group programs, and one-on-one coaching. She's also the co-founder of ILM Tree Co-op, supporting intentional Muslim education. Yusur views parenting as an amanah and a path of worship. Her work helps moms lead their homes with mercy, firmness, and trust in Allah. During Ramadan, she guides families to align routines, discipline, and hearts with the Sunnah.
All right, let's get started. Alhamdulillah, I'm so happy to be here, inshallah, at the MCC community, as well as the greater homeschooling community. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. I see a lot of familiar faces. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Okay, so the topic of our discussion. I was introduced, alhamdulillah, a little bit about me. I am a homeschooling mother of 20 years. I am co-founder of 2 homeschooling cooperatives, ILM Tree and Amana Co-op. I've been homeschooling in community for many, many years. I have 4 daughters, aging in ranges closer. Okay. Thank you. My daughters range in ages 16 to 27. Alhamdulillah. What else about me? I am a parenting educator in the community. I help moms with their parenting as far as aligning it with the Sunnah, gaining confident parenting skills, and really being able to bring that into their homes so they can have more peace and less burnout. I do work with parents as well, meaning fathers and mothers, inshallah, and helping them really troubleshoot the challenges they're having in their parenting at different stages. I work with parents of all the different stages, from toddlers all the way to high school and onward. Alhamdulillah, having experienced it. So why I chose this topic. We're going into summer, alhamdulillah. And I find a lot of moms in my community, I have an online community called Amana Parenting, who are struggling with getting their kids to do things, okay? And they're struggling with getting their kids to do it independently without them being involved. And this is even more true for homeschooling parents. If you think about it, we're with them all day. We end up being the ones who are managing them day in, day out. And oftentimes when we don't transition our parenting, it's challenging because we end up feeling responsible. That's the title here. The Homeschool Leadership Shift is what I'm presenting. Why your older kids still need so many reminders and what to do about it. And when I'm speaking of older kids here, I'm talking about the tweens and the teenagers, ages 10 to 16 in particular. Some of this can apply to younger kids, but when they reach a certain age, we have to recognize our parenting needs to change. So we'll get into the what's and how of that. Okay, so let's start off with a common challenge. How many reminders do you find yourself giving your kids over the last day? Okay, as a homeschooling parent, how much talking do we do, if we're really honest with ourselves? And we're talking about reminders about things they already know they're supposed to do, whether it's brush their teeth, put their dish in the sink, not hit their sibling. The reminders can be so constant, and they really can take away from us teaching, okay? So the talking, the reminding, the nagging takes a lot of our energy and can drain us and take us away from our goal in homeschooling, which is to teach them and guide them in all areas of their life. So that's what we're gonna unpack today. It's a common feeling. So the real frustration I find with parents is they're thinking to themselves with all the reminders, haven't I taught my kids this already? Why don't they know what to do if we talked about this a million times? And why am I still having to be responsible for everything? Everything. I have to get them to do this and get them to do that and get them to do this. We often feel like our children are a project of to-do lists, and we're checking off each thing on that list, wanting this perfect child at the end of the day. And that's not how human beings work, unfortunately. So we have to take away that mentality of approaching our kids as other than Allah's creation, as separate human beings, and understand where they are developmentally and set expectations and guide and support. We're going to get into the leadership ladder to help us understand that a bit better. So our bigger goal is not getting our kids to do all their chores and all their responsibilities and all their commitments. We're not raising children, we're raising future children, future adults, okay? And when we're talking about future adults who are Muslim, this comes back to what kind of person are we raising? Are we thinking about the long term in mind with our parenting and with our homeschooling? Are we thinking about the type of adult we want them to grow into being? Or are we just thinking about the thing we want them to get done immediately? Eat the food, take the nap, do the worksheet, okay? So being more long-term thinking allows us to step into our role as leader differently. Alhamdulillah. So everything we discussed today should be measured against this vision you have for your children as they grow into adulthood. Our Islamic vision, this is really foundational. This is so, so important that we acknowledge Allah has said in the Quran, and that there is not for man except for which he strives. And there is not for man except for which he strives. So our children are not supposed to be spoon-fed. We're supposed to be encouraging them to strive and put an effort and work hard so they can actually grow and change. And the responsibility piece in raising them and in homeschooling them is part of the tarbiyah process. It's a part of the training process. And this process isn't something that's magical. It doesn't happen overnight, but it's one step at a time. So responsibility isn't about chores. It's about accountability, them putting an effort, being of service, developing their character and their worship. Our children must learn to take ownership. Oftentimes as parents, we hold our kids in the early stages of them just being kids. They're just children, they're just kids. But we don't necessarily recognize when they turn 7, when they turn 10, they're growing into getting closer to the point where they're going to be young adults in the making, and they're going to have a certain ownership because they're going to be standing before Allah and be accountable for what they say and they do, or what they don't say and what they don't do. So this is an important part of teaching our kids ownership of themselves and not owning it for them with all the reminders and doing things they should be doing for themselves. This is a real shift that we need to do in our parenting as our kids grow into the tween and teen years. The confident parenting method. So this is the method I teach at Amana Parenting, and it essentially is skills that I have found are important for parents as they parent their kids. We need to ground ourselves in key skills that help us lead our kids. And this is leading our kids with the 5 C's, which I call calmness, being able to regulate your emotions. Let's remember, we are the adults in the situation. We don't take on our kids' emotion, okay? We're guiding our kids by not getting angry and getting heated and being reactionary. That doesn't serve them in getting a lesson. And if anything, that models the behavior we don't want them to have. So our beloved Prophet Muhammad has taught us, do not get angry, do not get angry, do not get angry. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the reason being is, as adults, we're responsible for how we react to our kids. The second of the essential leadership skills that I teach in the Confident Parenting Method is giving our kids clarity. Kids do what they're expected to do. Honestly, at the end of the day, they might not do it fast, they might not do it right away, they might do it in the way you want. But if you set clear expectations for your kids, generally kids want to be successful and make you happy. So expectations come in the form of routines, schedules, rules, consequences when needed. Let's not shy away from giving our kids the experience of learning to take responsibility for their actions at a young age. So as they get older, they learn to discipline themselves. The next of the 5 C's we have here is connection, which is essentially mercy with boundaries. Actually, next one should be connection, but it's not. Okay. So connection is the importance of acknowledging that our children are separate human beings. Our children are a gift from Allah, and our children require for us to stay connected. We don't withdraw love when they choose not to do what we want them to do. We don't hold on to bad feelings towards them and labeling. Those things are counterproductive towards getting the cooperation and getting them to buy into your leadership. So enjoying your children, correcting them with firmness and kindness, and then going back to having a normal relationship with our beloved children. Okay? And this comes with us not taking their immature behavior personal. Okay? Children are immature, so expect immature behavior and not be rocked by their behavior. Okay? Emotions come and emotions go. We don't need to get in there with their emotions and give them therapy sessions. And I'm saying this because I've talked to so many moms who believe it's their responsibility to talk their kids through every emotion and this and that, and let's have a calm corner and let's do this, and what do you think? Kids will learn if given the space and the time to work through their emotions. It doesn't mean outside of the difficult emotions you can't have talks about more productive ways to react, but they are children, so give them the space to work through their emotions. Your calm ability in that moment, your composure and your ability to not be rocked is what's going to help ground them in that moment. And I feel very strongly that a lot of what's going on in terms of tantrums and big emotions is because therapy has been infused to modern day parenting. Therapy serves a place, but it is not the essence, it's not at the core, the center. Emotions should not be running our parenting, okay? So we need to be able to lead with confidence, knowing what we're saying or asking of our kids. Age appropriate, should be acceptable, should be okay for them to rise up to. not flip-flop in our parenting, feeling we're not doing the right thing. The next one here, which is not listed, the slide is a little off, is conviction. Conviction is incredibly important. Conviction means acknowledging that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen you as the just right parent, and your decisions and your judgments are good enough. Okay? It doesn't mean you don't pivot and change your parenting as life goes on or something makes more sense to you. But when you make a decision, do it. Do not go back and forth. If your kids pick up on a little bit of hesitation from what you've asked them to do, that's fair. Pick up on hesitation as to one day I sleep at 7 o'clock, next day I sleep at 9 o'clock, this flip-flopping, then you start to lose your sense of leadership and they start to second guess you. And that's where the power struggles often open up, is when we're having this back and forth with our kids. Kids feel grounded when they know the expectations and when they know that you're serious, calm, and firm, and you keep moving forward. I would guess, looking around in this group, the majority of us grew up in a house where our parents didn't ask us what we want to eat. They didn't ask us when we want to go to sleep. They didn't ask us, are they ready to put on your seatbelt? This sort of constant checking in with our kids and showing them and not stepping into our authority that we know the seatbelt is safe for them, they're required, and being okay and moving on, versus the back and forth. Are you okay in this? We have to step into more conviction in our parenting, especially dads. Especially dads. And the reason I say this is so many of us moms take the driver's seat in parenting, and the dads get second guessed. And there's a role for the dads and there's a role for the moms, and they should complement each other. Okay? They should complement each other. Kids listen very differently from their fathers than they do to their mothers, if we're really honest. And there's a reason why. So let the roles complement each other, alhamdulillah, and let's support each other on having a united front in our parenting. Because kids, not that they intentionally go between, but they go between the different messages that are sent. Last one here is, okay, it's not listed, but anyways, last one is correction. How we discipline our kids matters, okay? Having a basic discipline system means you correct your kids when you're not emotionally reactionary. You're calm, you're confident, and you have a plan. So intentionality is important with parenting. And as you correct your kids, you should have basic rules based on your values. Do you not run in the house? Do we come the first time you're called? Are you expected to do your morning routine before you come downstairs? Whatever areas you're training your kids in, you turn it into a basic expectation or a rule, and we'll go over the leadership ladder of passing it to them, teaching them, supporting them, supervising them. And then if a consequence is needed when they choose to do what they want to do, when they want to do it about basic things, then there has to be a consequence. And consequence does not mean punishment. Consequence means being held accountable for what you choose or you don't choose, what you say or what you don't say. They're responsible for what comes out of their mouth and what they choose to do. And it's not the idea that our children know all the right answers and they're always going to get it right. No, it's the opportunity for them to experientially learn and make the connection that my words and my actions have consequences, and I'm responsible and I affect other people. And one day Allah is going to ask me about these actions. Okay? So providing discipline and correction for your kids allows them to learn self-discipline as they grow into adulthood. As adults, they have to be able to discipline their own souls. They have to be able to have self-control. They have to be able to have impulse control. And when they're younger, we give it to them in small bits and they build on it. And when they recognize that they do have self-control, they feel capable. They feel confident in themselves instead of flip-flopping between different emotions and desires and feeling they're incapable of withholding themselves. So this is a really big one. Correction is essential, and it's taken according to the middle path of our beloved Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is both kind and firm. So you want to be in the middle. Okay, why homeschooling parents become overloaded, okay? This is serious talk, inshallah. So who remembers everything in the home? Who's expected to remember everything in the home? The parent, the mom, We're expected to juggle it all. We're expected to have all the curriculum sorted out. We're expected to tutor them when things are not going right, make sure the foods are done on time and nutritious. We plan everything, we schedule everything. We're the coach, the cleaner. We do conflict mediation between the siblings. We provide character training, salah enforcer, did you do your prayers, all of that and more, okay? We have to understand that it is exhausting to do everything. And we have a capacity as parents and human beings. So we have to know how to prioritize what it is we're choosing to do as the parents. We have to learn how to delegate. And we also have to get our kids on board. Kids are way more capable at a young age than you think. So if we're carrying the responsibilities of multiple people, then that explains our exhaustion. So why older kids still need so many reminders? It's because they're depending, we've set up a situation where they're depending on our brain, okay? Instead of passing the responsibility back to them and asking them what they should be doing, we're doing the reminding and the nagging and the threatening and the yelling. They're depending on us to sort and figure everything out. And it's not because they're not capable. It's because reminders have become part of the pattern, the system we have with our children. It's us. We've chosen to do that if we're really honest with ourselves. So the problem isn't laziness on our part. Sometimes we're like, oh, these kids, they're just so lazy these days. No, it's not that. They're accustomed to us eventually doing the thing or letting them slide. The problem is in ownership. Who owns the task? Is brushing teeth the parent's task? Is finishing the food on the plate the parent's task? No, it's the child's task. And when they're required and expected to do it from beginning to end, satisfactory, they'll do it if they have to. Human beings by nature do what they have to do, including children. Okay, let's get into the 4 traps of parenting. The 4 traps of parenting is doing it because it's faster, constantly reminding our kids, fulfilling their responsibilities they should be doing, and parenting from a place of guilt. Emotions are taking over. I'll go ahead and walk you through each of these. Okay, trap number 1. At the end, after I go over all 4, I'd love to know which one do you find yourself trapped in. So number 4, it's easier if I just do it myself. It's faster, easier, it'll be done the way I want. I hear this all the time. How many years have you been saying 5 more minutes, I'm going to do it myself? So while it's convenient to do it yourself, you're actually taking the responsibility back from your child learning important skills. Your kids are capable of washing cars, cooking basic meals, taking out the trash. When we do it ourselves, we're telling our kids they're not capable, nor do we require them to do uncomfortable things. I think a lot of the times what we ask our kids to do aren't necessarily hard if we break it up into small steps. It's just annoying to them. It's just uncomfortable. It's just inconvenient. And then we end up swooping in and doing the thing, and then they get out of doing things in life. The long-term effects of not having responsibilities for your kids is entitlement. The long-term effects of stepping in and doing things for your kids they should be doing for themselves as young adults, young people growing into adulthood, is they become entitled. They expect the world is going to do things for them, and they can sit back, that hard work is not required. And I know the majority of the people here, whether they're from immigrant families or just born a little time ago, your parents did not stop you from doing hard things. They required it of you. And if you look back on the hard things you were required to do, that's what helped your character develop. Character is not developed from easy street, from making your kids happy all the time. I know we love our kids so much and we have so much to give them, but it is at a disservice when we do things for them all the time. Trap number 2, too many reminders, talking. There's this thing with parents these days that we think if we just say it in the right way, or we say it at the right time, or if we say it enough times, we're going to convince our kids to have the same agenda as us. Kids have their own agenda. They're kids. They want to have fun. They want to eat nice things. They want to play video games. They want to, whatever it is. So this idea of talking and talking and talking may seem kind. It may seem like the gentle parenting approach, being nice all the time. I'm going to win them over with my niceness. It's not how kids work or human beings. There is a place for instruction, but actions speak louder to kids. Our actions, okay? The requirement, the standing there, the saying it once, and then the observation, they do what they're asked to do. And this is what dads do very well. I'll be honest. Most parents I talk with, the moms say, my kids don't listen to me the way they listen to their dad. I say the exact same thing, but they don't do it. There is something in the father's approach, few words, and supervision. He makes sure it gets done. And I would say lastly, often fathers are not emotionally invested in the child doing the thing, that they're able to be level-headed. And the kids appreciate that emotion isn't layered into, did I do my homework? Or did I take the shower? Okay? So it's really important that we work towards talking less, being clear and firm to the point about the everyday things. Responsibilities start without reminders. Reminders exist whether mom reminds me or not. So you want our kids to get to the point where the responsibility is there, even if I'm not reminded. It's going to have to get done. It's the expectation. It's my share. It's my contribution to the house. I'm part of a team. I'm going to be responsible as a student to my teacher. Whomever the responsibility is to, it's still going to be there without any reminders. And I would say as well, a lot of us were raised that way. So we can't pretend as if this doesn't work. It actually does work. What I'm finding is a lot of us parents now are experimenting with new ways of parenting, believing they're going to get better results. And it's not necessarily the case. Some things are time tested and proven to work. So be very careful where you take your parenting advice from. Okay, one moment. Let's go to 3 and 4. So trap number 3, carrying the load. Trap number 3 is carrying the load. Alhamdulillah. So oftentimes parents convince themselves that they have to carry the load, that their kids are not capable of carrying the load, that their kids don't have the ability to do the thing. We don't need to take responsibility for what children in the process of becoming young adults are capable of doing. Secondly, parenting from guilt. A lot of us can be perfectionists. We want things done a certain way in a certain time, and as a result, we feel guilty. I have to do it, otherwise they may fail. We want to save them from any sort of like uncomfortable thing where they feel like they didn't do it right. A lot of this emotional load we need to put aside for the sake of our kids learning to deal with disappointments and failures in life. These are opportunities for them to grow and learning how to get things done. And we shouldn't feel guilty if they don't know how to do it the first time, because that's the process of maturing and growing. You have to go through some bumps in the road. You have to have some mistakes before you learn how to do something. So parenting from guilt. So which one of these 4 do you find yourself falling into? I'd rather, trap number 1, it's easier if I just do it myself. Raise your hand if you usually do things for your kids because you just want to get it done. It's easier. Anyone here? 1, 2, do it yourself. Okay. Next trap is too many reminders. You do a lot of talking and you say it again and you say it again, hoping majority, lots of reminders. It's this feeling of being so kind and so merciful that you want to, okay. Trap number 3, carrying the load, not believing your kids are capable of doing uncomfortable, hard things. Taking out the trash, cooking, and carrying the load for them. Yeah, you feel like you have to do it. You have to make it happen. Good. And last one is parenting guilt. Who gets stuck in parenting guilt? That's a big one. The emotional load of feeling you don't want your kids to have mistakes or failures, and you want dinner to be perfect every night, so you have to do it. Not an okay dinner. It's not acceptable. So you carry that guilt of making things happen. Nice. Inshallah. Okay, so let's jump into an exercise here. I want you to either on a piece of paper or on your phone reflect on what are you taking responsibility for that your kids can do for themselves. What sorts of things? In the younger years, it'd probably be something as simple as brushing their own teeth, putting on their own pajamas, feeding themselves at the dinner table. What are you caring? What are you doing for your kids that they could be doing for themselves? Older kids, of course, there's a whole lot of things they can do for themselves. And then in another column, you can write down, what can my children carry? Okay. Okay. Sure. All right. Is that better? Much closer? Much? Okay. All right. So school, so some of the things kids could be caring for themselves are school responsibilities. Are they taking care of them independently? Are they able, older kids, to do their laundry would be an idea. Are they fulfilling their Quran homework or practice on their own? Are they responsible for their schedule? The older kids, are they writing out their online classes and their extracurricular activities? Or are we managing all these things for our kids? So the goal of doing this exercise is to create the self-awareness we need. In order to make change, it's important that we recognize where our starting point is, right? So if we're wanting to transfer some of the things we're taking on that our kids should be doing, we need to be aware of what they are and what they're capable of doing at their given ages. Okay, and maybe we can get a couple shares, inshallah. What am I carrying? What can my child start carrying? Okay, go ahead, please. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Being an, yes. Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Nice. So your daughters can start being involved in creating her homeschooling schedule and taking ownership for following it. Very good, mashallah. Awesome. Anyone else? Yes, please. Okay.
Hi, my daughters are 7 and 8, and I carry remembering where they put everything.
Oh, their belongings. So
Their
you're responsible
belongings,
for
yes. And so they'll go to
identifying
dad
and
and-
organizing their belongings.
Yeah, they'll
at
go to
7.
dad and say, "Do you know where is this?" And I'll remember. And
Uh-huh.
so that's something that they should be carrying
And how long have you been doing that for?
forever.
Okay. So since they were little, it sounds like
Yes.
you were helpful in that way.
Yes,
But now they're older, it's time to transition the responsibility.
that's right.
Nice. Thank you for sharing. Inshallah. Anyone else? Okay, beautiful. Let's keep moving on.
Assalamu alaikum.
Yes. Alaikum salam.
So my son's 4.
Okay.
I feel like I still have to do some carrying,
Of course.
but I definitely need to start building those bridges. And we have like a Batman bedtime story that has routines in it. We have a little chart to get him ready for that, but I'm not using it, and he still finds holes in like the transitions. So I just have to really be on my personal transitions because he finds wiggle room, and he'll run out the restroom when he needs to comb his hair after a bath, or so
Right.
I have to really close the door, find these little holes that he's finding, and just
Yes.
really like lock in so that he could start building those skills.
Absolutely. No, I like that. Starting as early as 4 years old, being consistent with routines is really important. I taught preschool for 12, 15 years, and I would have a whole preschool class, and they knew what to do, when to do it, and they relied on that to be solid. As soon as anything changed, they felt confused or not knowing. So it's very helpful. It's for their own good that we provide a consistent schedule to the best of our ability, and lead it, because that's part of leadership, is following through on what we say we're going to do. That's an excellent start. Inshallah. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so this is where we're getting to, mashallah. This is something I'm excited, alhamdulillah, about sharing here. The leadership ladder. This is the idea of shifting from becoming a homeschooling parent who manages things to becoming the leader in the family. This is a very, very different way of looking at parenting. And I find in our current day and age, while in the past the idea of being the authority in the house, the leader in the house was very normal, now there's some confusion about, should my kids listen to me? Should I require them to do A, B, and C? When we're talking about the basic day in, day out things we want our kids to do, seatbelts, putting their shoes on, eating their meal, staying in bed. These things, as the leader, we require our kids to do in a certain way, and we lead it. Now, how we lead matters. I'm not talking about this sort of like authoritarian where we're mean and we're harsh. No, being a leader doesn't mean being harsh. We can be kind, yet firm, serious, composed at times, lighthearted at other times. There is this balance that's shown in the character and the example of our Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So managers constantly remind, because they feel responsible. Leaders create systems. Okay? Leaders create systems, and they follow through. Managers carry the responsibility of others, while leaders transfer the responsibilities to those that are capable. So when your kids reach to a certain age, 10, they're capable of emptying out the dishwasher without a reminder. Okay? When they reach the age 12, they can prep for dinner if you give them a list. Kids are capable if you pass that responsibility to them, and they also feel a sense of self-esteem and capability and confidence that comes with learning skills. So it's not about just getting them to do a task. You're building their skill set so you know how to run things, whether it's running their house, running their family, participating in a community, jumping in and doing something. If they're not given basic skills on how to do things, oftentimes you find them being uninvolved, being scared to try things. All of this is incredibly important for our kids' well-being and maturity. Managers solve everybody's problems, while leaders teach problem solving. Managers solve problems, teachers teach problem solving. So this is a conversation when you're having with your kids, the language you're using starts to shift as they get into the preteens and the teens. It's more like, okay, so how does that get taken care of? When does it get taken care of? What do you think? What needs to be done here? Not go do this. Why haven't you done this? Especially the why. If why is done in an emotional moment, it's useless. So save the whys in parenting. There's a purpose and a time for whys, but generally speaking, it's more of the how, what. And when you pose the question for the child to find a solution to, their brain goes to solving the problem versus us telling them and them feeling like we're controlling, okay? And we have all the decisions. We want them to feel like, I can sort this out. And a lot of us, when we were growing up, because we had more autonomy and we had to figure things out in life, whether you caught the bus, whether you went to the grocery store to get groceries for your mom, whether you went to the post office, this used to be normal things growing up. Kids don't do this stuff anymore. And therefore, they don't have the experience of having to figure things out. Kids used to play outside with other kids, and if the group of kids had an issue, they had to solve it. It wasn't the mom being called in from the other room. So we have to understand all this problem solving, helicopter parenting is really making kids immature emotionally, intellectually, and I would say spiritually as well. Instead of them taking it to Allah, they want us to come fix things for them right here and right now. And they're very impatient, these oftentimes. So I don't want to make this, not all kids, but I'm seeing a lot of this as a teacher and as a parenting coach who works with hundreds of families. Okay, this is the good part. How do we transfer responsibility? How do we do this? Okay, this is a responsibility ladder. So the transferring part comes as they get a little bit older, most things. But even the early years, as a preschooler, kids can put on their own shoes, put on their own jacket, carry their own backpack, just don't stuff it too much. Put away certain belongings before dinner. So the first thing we do is we teach. We teach what the expectation is. We tell kids, okay, this is what you're doing for yourself. This is what we're working on. And for the younger kids, I usually tell them, it's time to eat. It's time to get our shoes on. Just make it simple, less words. And then you model it if it's related to modeling. This is how we put on our shoes. This is how we remain calm in difficult situations. And then supervise. In the early part of teaching responsibility, you have to not assume your kids are going to do it. Assume they're not going to do it the first 5-10 times. You supervise. Supervising isn't helicoptering. It's like, oh, okay, let's get it done. You start. I'm going to come check on you in 5 or 10 minutes. It's not standing there over them. And it's definitely not being upset about them taking a long time or doing it differently. Allow them to practice as they start their new routine, maybe the after-school routine or the cleaning up after homeschooling. Okay, what do we do when we finish our homeschooling routine? 3 things. Clear off the table, put your things away, and then something else. So break things into very simple steps, practice with them, and then pass it to them. Don't remind them. Other than telling them or having it written on the board, what should you be doing until they get the hang of it? Or what is it time for? Asking them, what should you be doing? It's 4 o'clock. And then you just review. When it's been a pattern, a time of them being given a responsibility or expectation, you review and see how they're doing. And if for some reason they're choosing not to do it, if they have a good reason, they're sick, maybe. If they're choosing not to do it, life has consequences. Everything in life has consequences. We all know that. We don't want to get a speeding ticket and pay $300. Okay, we pay our taxes, we don't want to get fined. So our kids should feel a consequence for their choices. And this is after a process of transferring the responsibility and expectation to them and being very clear. Consequences aren't meant to be punitive, not meaning to hurt them, but it is an opportunity for them to learn. Okay? Consequences can teach kids things that words can't. No amount of words can teach a child versus the experience of feeling the consequence of their choice, the consequence of their action, the consequences of their words. They have to make that connection through discomfort and what they're being told to do, that they're going to have a consequence. And consequence can be as simple as if they don't fulfill a certain responsibility in the house, you add another responsibility. That'd be the easiest when it comes to not fulfilling commitments. How do I fix this? A consequence can also be something taken away, a privilege. Once you've done this, then you can go back and do the thing you want to do. In the early years, it's really simple. You just tell them, okay, sweetie, once you put your shoes on, then we can go outside. Once you finish your food, you can leave the table. That's the early years. Once they get older, it gets a little more stricter and more felt. And older kids, even though in the beginning, if you give them an extra chore or you take away their screen time, in the beginning, it's going to be hard because they're not used to it. So there is a period of time when you're enforcing consequences when you newly haven't, where there's going to be resistance. But what they're going to do later, when they've done something knowingly that's required of them, that's fair, they're going to say, oh, what's my consequence? I know I shouldn't have done that. And that's when they're making the connection that I'm required. Kids get away with what we allow them to get away with. Okay, so the missing ingredient, connection, connection, connection. Connection without accountability creates entitlement. So lots of connection and giving your kids all the things in the world and all the things they want to do and all the things that make their life enjoyable without having them responsible for much in life. That's where entitlement's coming in. And a lot of our kids are entitled. And the reason why I say they're entitled is because we have so much to give in our day and age, and we give it freely and willingly because we love our kids. But there is a such thing as doing it to the extent where it's disadvantage. It's at a cost of their ability to mature. When kids are always given things and not required to do age-appropriate things, then they start to believe I deserve things without hard work. Okay? So a little bit of struggle is important. A little bit of challenge is important to develop character and move our kids away from thinking that the world is going to give them everything they want. We're seeing high records of entitlement these days, and lots of parents not understanding why their kids do not appreciate or don't have contentment in their heart. And it's a problem, especially for Muslim kids. It's a problem not to have shukr, not to remember where things came from, not to appreciate and show respect for their parents who work hard to provide these things. The Sunnah gives us both mercy and responsibility, kindness and leadership. These things can go hand in hand. Okay. All right, as we close out, I'd like you to think with the long term in mind. Imagine your child at 25 years old. I know it's hard to imagine if you have a little one, inshallah. But as a mother of a 27-year-old and a 25-year-old, it goes by very, very quick. What are the characters you're hoping to see in your child? What habits would you want your child to have as an adult? Thinking with the long term in mind is essential as Muslim parents. Not the day-to-day interactions and getting certain things on your to-do list done. But zooming out and thinking long-term helps us to have the patience and the mercy to push through the difficulties that come with parenting. Parenting is challenging, but so much goodness comes out of it and so many rewards from Allah. So perhaps you're wanting to raise a child who is a responsible person, who fulfills their responsibility to themselves, to Allah, to their boss, to their family. You want a child who is trustworthy, who has good judgment, who can navigate adulthood and be a trustworthy person. Capable, able to step up and get things done, not shy away from responsibility and being a leader. Helpful, take initiative when something needs to get done. Would you like a child who's actually someone who sees it with their eyes and steps in and helps out? You don't see that as much from some young people. They're busy looking at their screens, so they're not aware of what's happening in their environment. And that's at a disservice to them to learn the skill of being helpful and taking initiative. Strong in their deen. If we want our kids to be strong in their deen, then we have to make sure that they take responsibility for taking the steps and the actions and the commitments of someone who's attached to and loves their deen. Okay, so as we close out, alhamdulillah, I have a worksheet available as a resource for everyone. And the idea here is, how do we start sharing this and passing and transferring these responsibilities? It's a checklist for the preteen parents and then teenage parents on where do you currently stand in terms of auditing? How much your kids are capable of doing at this point, or you allow them to do? And how can you move towards them being more responsible? Even though every child develops differently, and this is not meant to be rigid, the purpose is to help us evaluate. Am I expecting too little? Am I carrying responsibilities my child is capable of carrying? And ultimately, we're moving towards the goal not being perfection, but gradually our kids being more responsible owners of their lives. Alhamdulillah. So we're going to put this link to this for the people online, inshallah, in the chat box before the end of the conference. And at the back table, I have a table there at the back of the room, not this room, but outside the room, the lobby. I have printed out copies so parents can come by and grab one from there, inshallah. I'll share before the end of the conference. Yeah, I don't have it right now. So the idea here, inshallah, is gaining self-awareness about what leadership means in our parenting, how it will benefit our kids, how we can be less stressed out, overwhelmed trying to do everything, and then taking a baby step. The goal here is small, consistent steps, inshallah, in growing your parenting, and inshallah, and being able to therefore be able to create change in your household for the better. Bi-idhnillah. Okay, just 2 more slides. So I have upcoming support, alhamdulillah, for the Amana Parenting community, which is a community I run online. I will be doing a summer challenge. I do it yearly. There's hundreds of moms who take this challenge with us as far as resetting our emotions. Anger-free parenting challenge. I'll be doing it next month, inshallah, because we all know summertime is where new challenges come up in our parenting, alhamdulillah, whether it's screens, siblings, and with less structure, there's more emotion, alhamdulillah, that comes up. So I'll be sharing that as well at the table. Alhamdulillah. And then, as I said, Amana Parenting is an online moms community. So if people are interested in learning more, there is a QR code to join the Amana Parenting community, where I provide guidance, insights weekly, as well as upcoming events. Alhamdulillah. So it's been really good to be here. As we've been sharing, as we lead, they will follow. Our children are in need of us stepping into this leadership role Allah has given us, alhamdulillah, in a way that's effective and aligned with the prophetic way of kindness and firmness. I think we'll be having a question and answer period a little bit later, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Thank you.
Jazakallah khair. I can probably answer from my own point of view because my kids were in a co-op. Brother Arshan was talking about hating schooling. My kids started public schooling. They started in public school, and by the time I got them out, they already hated learning. So it was a big challenge for me homeschooling my kids. I have 3 boys, 21, 22, and 17. So I did everything, including the co-op, and our co-op was amazing. So at each phase, it was exactly what I needed. I've done charter schools. I started just blindly doing it, researching online, taught them, and it was okay, but I needed structure. So I went and did the charter school, and it was too much structure. And then that's when we did the co-op, and the co-op was really great because I had other parents. So basically it was parents pooling their money together and creating like a curriculum, and ours was kind of like a school. But I think Brother Arshan you guys have a great co-op, so theirs is really good. But ours was really good too for 2 years. Nothing like theirs, but it was great. So it was if parents want to get together and they want to homeschool their kids together and have support, that's a really good way. And then also, if you're part of a charter school, you can pool your money together and, hire teachers or create specific curriculums that you wouldn't be able to do on your own.
Jazakumullah khairan. My wife could probably talk about it because I'll take all the credit, but I don't do anything. Yeah, so we have a co-op called Buruj. We meet every Tuesdays, and the idea is that like you have like parents like take on different subjects. So we have a whole like curriculum for the year that we put together, and then we just have different teachers, parents teach it. And the beauty of it is, again, like most of us, like how much of us know Fatima al-Fihri? Let's say we're gonna do that's as a subject. I didn't know anything about her like a year ago, and so then we have to learn with our kids. So part of that experience is that like you're also, they say like you're homeschooling the parents a lot, which is so beautiful. And I've learned so much about like Islamic history thanks to my wife, because we're like, let's do North Africa, a study on North Africa, the history of North Africa, or whatever it is, and we'll just go learn it ourselves. We'll watch a YouTube video, we'll go read about some articles. My wife even builds curriculums on it. But yeah, generally we just meet for a few hours. You have as many students, 5 to 30, doesn't really matter. We break it down into like the older kids in one group and the younger kids in another group, and then you just do a small little activity or whatever it is. It's more experiential. But yeah, and that's it. We just get together every week.
Question over here. I'll over here, and then I'll come to you.
Hi, thank you so much for today. We're still investigating, or I'm still learning a lot about homeschooling. But so I have a few questions. some of them are a little stupid, I think, but having the kids at home all the time, I want to hear from you guys. How were you able to manage TV screens and all the challenges that come with screens? My son is 11 and a half. He's almost 12, and I've been avoiding all of this, especially so he watches on the weekend, but other than that, I don't, and he doesn't have a phone or anything. But how would I be able to do this if I start homeschooling? And if it's too late, since I heard by 10 he should be doing more, I haven't even started. So if I would start this year, he would be starting middle school. And being lost with all the information, and I thought I would be able to get more today, so I'm able to start somewhere. If I am working full time, I want to hear from all of you, which would be the best from the 4 decisions that you guys have to choose between, the charter or all the names that I heard today. So which one can I jump on right away that makes it easy while I'm working? I'm so sorry, bombarded you with 3 questions.
What was the first question again? I'm sorry. Screen time. Okay. So I'm assuming why your son isn't on screens during the school week is because he's at school. Okay. Right. Mhm. It is tricky to find that balance. Right. So if you choose to homeschool, you're going to have to provide the structure and the routines for him to be busied with other than thinking about screens. So that's the goal of it. It's not the idea of busyness for just the sake of busyness, but directing him towards things he can do during that time and building his skill sets and mastering something where he's not thinking about doing screens all the time would be the long-term solution. And that takes time and effort.
So you guys were able to handle that. Was it stressful? Adding more stress to the stress of
I'll tell you what the challenge is with screens and homeschooling. Post-COVID, everything went online. That's the biggest challenge. I hear from parents over and over who homeschool. Once their child finishes the online class, they find a way to stay on the computer, and then the habits build. So there are ways around that as far as ensuring they don't stay on the computer after. And then secondly, it's exposure to other kids only online. So they want to game with them, they want to interact with them online. So finding other social interactions where they are fulfilled, because that's one of their basic needs, is to socialize as a young person. And that's what they get out of being in school. Kids love recess, they love parties, the things that happen at school that keep them going are those social moments.
I keep him busy with 3 sports, so he should be busy, but still having him at
Home. Mm-hmm.
school is scary.
Mm-hmm. I can understand that.
Okay, thank you.
Will you be home with him, or are you working outside of the home?
I can be home.
Okay. Because of his age, if it were me, I would consider the charter school, and I would use the majority of the funds to hire a private tutor and do a really simple curriculum and keep something that's consistent to what he's already been doing. If your goal is something, it sounds like your goal might not necessarily be academic and more social. And if that's the case, then I would do something that resembles a little more like public school at home and get a teacher in there to teach him, unless I'm misunderstanding why you are removing him from his schooling environment. Yeah. For sure. Yeah, middle school is, I would avoid it. Yeah. No, so it sounds a little more like for social reasons. In that case, the academics, you're looking to do a lot of things all of a sudden. And I might consider streamlining a few of the things. It won't be optimal. I mean, we've heard a variety of things as far as homeschooling here. Your homeschool might look a little different in order to achieve your other goals.
I always caution parents who are working full time, and it sounds like you actually have two pretty demanding jobs, and homeschooling, especially young children. I think to fulfill these different needs, social, academic, attachment, family time, it does take a lot of effort. It takes effort and time to build community. It takes effort and time to teach. That a lot of that can be outsourced if you have the means to do that. But I don't think that's, and I don't know you. I don't know your exact goals, and we can talk about that. But I think it's. I caution parents who do want to homeschool while working. It depends on like what's your support system. Who is going to be involved in the education? How are you going to build socialization time and social skills and time with other families? I think those are important questions to ask before you jump in. As far as the 4 options, I think as a new homeschooler in your situation, I think a charter is a good springboard. But again, charters have, you meet with an ES once a month. You have to provide samples, which means that you have to actually be doing things throughout the month. There is testing at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year. There's different kinds of testing. So it is involved, but then you also have the funds and you have a support structure through the ES who can guide and help you through some of those early questions. So that is a great option. But I've done both. It really depends on how you're going to realistically work and homeschool. I mean, as I said in my talk, homeschooling it really is more than a full-time job. It's not something that just can be, done on the side in between meetings. It would have there has to be resourcing and you have to kind of figure out how that'll work for you.
Barakallah fikum. Is it possible to homeschool while you're overseas? And what would be the best option?
I homeschooled out of state, but not out of country. But I do know families who homeschooled out of country, and the main thing that you need is a U.S. address. So if you maintain a U.S. address, then you can. But it's not so much of whether you can homeschool in another country, it's whether the other country will accept you as a homeschooler. So more importantly, I would find out what the laws are in that country to make sure that you're not doing something illegal, because not all countries support homeschooling. So, and I don't know if you're not a resident, maybe it's different, but that would be another thing to consider.
Just to clarify, what I meant is that basically I'm homeschooling on an American system, and choosing one of the systems that we have here. But like I live in Jordan or I live in Spain or whatever. That's what I meant.
So I haven't done this personally, but filing a PSA allows you a lot of flexibility. You do have to abide by state standards, which is you have to cover certain subjects, and education has to be happening a certain number of days during the year, and you have to track these things in attendance and so on and so forth. But traveling outside the country, you can do that as long as, again, if God forbid there was a situation where someone from the state is knocking on your door, which is very, very rare. I've never personally heard that happening. Then you have documentation of how you have been educating your child.
I see.
Now, when you file a PSA, there are steps, as Hannah was saying. There are steps. You have to do these steps. You have to, as I mentioned, homeschooling in California. That there's no such thing as homeschooling. It's either a private school that you create yourself, or you are part of a public school alternative system, which is the charter or the ISP. So a PSA would allow you to do that. You just have to, you have to be sure that you're following the laws, if that makes sense.
to all the panel, you guys were talking about how you guys had this sort of like unschool idea. My question is, how do you incorporate the sort of like brick and mortar subjects like English and math specifically in this sort of like unschool idea of like letting kids just like learn what they're passionate about?
So unschooling is a very broad umbrella, and parents who have unschooled are doing it differently. The way I did it was whatever that worked, that's what I did, because my kids were so resistant and it was a struggle. And I was going through a lot of things myself. So it was a tough time homeschooling and going through what I was going through. So the things that worked, one of them was McGuffey Reader. I love McGuffey Reader, and it's just a bunch of little stories, and it starts very slow and small, and then you build. So you have like the primer, which teaches the ABCs, and then some short sentences, and then it's the first reader, second reader, fourth reader. But by the time you're done, your kids, the kids have retained a lot. Their retention is like amazing. They can read and understand. Their vocabulary. They build their vocabulary. They would read it out loud to me, and also there was a lot of moral lessons in there. And then we would discuss it. So, and then I also did Fred Math, which was really fun and funny. It's a 5-year-old kid teaching universities students, and it was very like applicable math. You know, how do you apply math in real world? And then whatever else I could fit in. And then I just let them, once they got their, sometimes our schoolwork would be like 20 minutes, but then if they had screen time, which I didn't allow them in the beginning, but later on I did, they would do their screen time. And then after that, it was like, okay, if you're bored, you're bored. You have to figure it out. But it was a challenge. Unschooling is a very big challenge doing it. But if you can do it, it's amazing.
So my younger one is part of a charter. My older one, we have filed a PSA for him. I don't know if you were here during my talk and he also spoke. I think it depends. I'm getting the sense that you haven't homeschooled yet.
No.
Okay.
And I attended part of your call,
okay.
talk. My apologies.
No. That's not a problem. No, I just want to level set how much you heard. This is not a problem. Yeah. So I think there's a couple things to think about there. One is homeschooling, when you haven't done it directly into high school, has its own challenges. By the time you are, 15, 14, and you're in high school, there are certain patterns and there are certain things that have already been set. And then you're also dealing with this season of individuation and pushback and a lot of things that are challenging in and of itself. And then you're pulling your child out of a system they know into something that is unstructured and unknown, without a community, without an established community for your family. It takes time to, find the right people, find friendships and build co-ops and join existing programs to make sure that your child, your high schooler, is fully supported through the process. High schooling through a charter, academically, you would be supported, and you would have much more structure. But I think the challenge, and my son spoke to this, I spoke to this a little bit, is the socialization aspect. You have a drop that takes place. You have tons of homeschoolers in elementary school, a little bit less in middle school, and high school, there's a sharp drop. And it also depends on the gender of your child. For boys, it's like a cliff. Girls tend to persevere through high school, again, with gender differences and different things that are happening with both. So I would say that, without knowing, you or your child or your circumstances, I would say caution. You have to really make sure you understand what you're doing, how you're going to do it, what's the community like, what's your social structure, what are your academics, what are your options, and really think about that decision before pulling them out of what they're doing currently. It can really impact also their potential for college. This is where, again, you're diving deep on academics and setting up for college applications and so on and so forth. So it's a really, really critical time.
So I've been told by the organizers that we have 2 questions. If you don't mind, I'll take one of those. My question is, if you have a student with special needs, are there resources in homeschooling to help them? I know that like public school offers a lot of resources to help your child. What are resources that can be given in terms of homeschooling to your child?
I mean, if anyone on the panel knows more than I do, then I would rather have someone else take this question. I know a little. I don't have personal experience with it. I do have friends who have homeschooled kids with special needs. There is a small, tight-knit community of families that are homeschooling their kids with special needs. We manage in the South Bay, I think a WhatsApp group or a Telegram group, and I know they do really incredible work. There's a nonprofit. Say it louder. Mohsen, thank you. They have incredible programming, and I think through Mohsen, you would be able to, this family would be able to pursue more resources. I can personally connect you or this family with at least the WhatsApp group, and there's this one sister who's very active. Also, friends are very willing to help. So there are definitely resources. There are resources through charter schools as well. So there's help out there for sure.
Last question. Does anybody have one more question?
Do you mind if I say one thing about the special needs is that there are services available through the public school system, even if your children are not at school aged yet, if you anticipate or you think that there's an issue. So do go through your public school. The homeschool is not an entity that has services in the way that a public school has access to those services. So as much as you'll get from the homeschooling community, don't not go through your public school system in order to get those services if they're needed, especially if your special needs are quite severe and they have special programs.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you to all of the speakers up there. I think each one of you brought something very special and unique and something that benefited at least me in the room. I have a very self-serving question, so I don't want to keep the whole group, but I do want to pose it to all of you since you're all sitting up there. I am part of a HIFS program. My child participates in a Hafiz program, and our program grew from 3 students to 15, and we need help with structuring, I guess, the educational needs, balancing the educational needs of the varying ages of the students and the secular education while maintaining their goal in the Hafiz program. So we're in the East Bay in Brentwood. So I have questions if you can help. Thank you.
So is your question for resources, or what specifically are you looking for? What kind of help?
Resources or consultant, or how to kind of structure our program because there is no structure.
Got it. Well, I'm a homeschooling consultant, so I help new homeschoolers. There are a few consultants in the Bay Area, but you're welcome to reach out. It's Calibrated Pathways. So I'm happy to speak with you at least.
And additionally, if you look at, I believe it's Educate with Rise, that website, the founder of that organization who also has her own HITH program with her children, and or they've done memorization. She has some really good ideas as far as how to balance the homeschool academics with the memorization. Her name is Juanita.
All right, so I think we've come to the end of the program. I'm going to transfer it back to our MC. Thank you so much for all the panelists. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for choosing MCC again for this conference, and really appreciate all of you being here.
So I actually wanted to thank Sister Yasmin, because she's pretty much been running the entire East Bay Homeschool group for several years now. And specifically this year, I feel like she did almost everything herself with the help of Wafa and every now and then me. This entire event was pretty much organized by her, and I'm just here doing the emceeing. So please make dua for her and her family. And thank you to MCC again for giving us your space and all the help. You guys were amazing. We wouldn't be able to do it without you. So make dua for MCC. And then thank you for all our amazing speakers and for your patience. And you stayed here so much longer. So, please make dua for them too. And real quick, for Rima, it's calibratedpathways.com. So if you want to reach out to her, Sister Mariam earlier, mindfulmuslimreader.com. Sister Yusur is Instagram handle is at Amana Parenting. Sister Hannah is pepperandpine.com. And then Brother Arshan is fridayha.hq.co. And then Sister Shabnam was the one that did the decor behind us. And she is at hb_fruits_decor. So she did an amazing work. I did discuss the Qigong. That's from Vicky De La Joya, wayofjoy.com. And then my website is clearvisionhealing.com if you want to reach out to me for anything. And then we have our, if you want to be a member of the group, QR code. Then we have a feedback survey. And then if you want to get on our Instagram, it's there. And again, this is not an institution. It's just a few volunteers doing everything in their own time, and sometimes even with their own money. So please do support us. If you want to help us out, reach out. We would definitely would love for your help and assistance. And Jazakallah khair for everybody on live stream and all of you who were here. Specifically, special thank you for the fathers. It was amazing seeing you all here. Again, we wouldn't be able to do it without you. So Jazakallah khair, everyone.